Welcome back, everyone, for more Santa Lucia. Last time we started, I guess, Act Two of for Carlos's route, and so far, I mean, besides the obvious like situations that we already discovered last time with Brian's route, we get a little bit of insight on Carlos, which is nice. That being, we get to like a look a little, yeah, we get to explore a little bit of Carlos's belief in religion, as well as just getting to know him a little bit better. You notice he has that big bro energy, and he might be in the closet. Considering that he has his own route, I'm pretty certain he's in the closet. So we got to know a little bit about him, and he's still pretty reserved, and he probably will be for a while, but it is kind of nice that Ben is, spending more time with him, and it seems like, some of the walls are starting to, crumble a little bit, which is kind of nice, Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm a Carlos fan, so, like, I can't wait to see more. I'm sorry. I'm a Carlos fan. Let's continue. Okay, so for Carlos's route and for Nate's route, I'm just gonna give you a heads up. It is gonna be a little disjointed at points because, kind of like from the Brian video a while back, since we went through during Brian's route, we went through a lot of important scenes that I feel like will pop up regardless of what route you take. I'm going to make sure I kind of skip through and bounce around to Carlos's sections, so that way, just so we're not just like rereading the same stuff over and over, So if you need to know what's happening in between these sections, just refer to the Brian Root videos, and as well as the original Carlos Root videos that I originally made before all the updates kind of happened. So just giving you a heads up. So, and I think this section right here is already like a section I already went through, but I figured since the text stopped here, I'm guessing there might be more stuff going on versus previous builds. So I'm going to reread this portion, but after this, I think, to my knowledge, I don't think there's any like anything we already read from Carlos's route from before. So this will be, I think, the only reread, whatever you want to say, part. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. So let's continue. The library shouldn't be much farther. For some reason, Carlos hasn't left my mind since I last spoke to him. As much as I crush on him, I'm not sure how well we'd be able to communicate if we end up together. Well, not that I need to worry about that since he's straight. Huh. Wonder what his type is. Tall with a big rack? Petite and cute? Somehow I can't think of a woman who could match his impossibly high standards. They probably need to look like a supermodel and have a master's degree in 3 fields. Nah, he's not like that at all. Probably wants someone who's relatable and polite. Or reliable and polite, sorry. Someone who doesn't lose their cool when something goes wrong. Or maybe someone who he can take care of. He definitely gives off those protector vibes. I slide my card to open the library door and step inside. I wish I had someone to talk to about this. Karina would have been the best candidate for this stuff, but ever since she dumped that gecko guy, I can't help but look at her somewhat differently. Didn't she say she thought Ahmed was the one too? I guess you never know how things are going to end up, huh? Not that I liked the gecko anyway. I'm not sure what she saw in him. As I travel deeper into the building, the temperature cools me off substantially. The ventilated breeze rustling against my fur is absolutely wonderful. I'm not much of a bookworm, but I could stay in this library the whole day. Between the secret between the secret nook upstairs, the quiet, and the cool air, this place is like a getaway island in the middle of the campus. Well, no time to waste. I slap my cheeks with both hands. Time to get to work. The mechanical sound of my fingers dancing on the keyboard is drowned out by the tunes playing in my earbuds. I've been plugging away at this research paper for the better part of an hour now, but I still don't feel confident I'm anywhere close to done. I stare at the big pile of books next to the library computer I'm sitting at. Who knew there would be so many damn books about American journalism in the 1800s? What an inane topic to research. That's a whole 100 years of history. The best I can do is The best I can do is a shallow overview of the period, which is gonna suck. I slide down the back of my chair. Can't wait to be back home. Speaking of, Zach's been absent a lot lately. Haven't seen him much since that day. Not sure how to feel when it comes to him. He seems like a friendly guy when you get to know him, but he's even more closed off than Carlos. A single mistake seems to set you back days with him. Well, whatever he's doing, I just hope he's not going to bring any trouble back to our dorm room. Just at the edge of my vision, I catch a glimpse of the grumpy tiger I know so well. What's he doing here? You know what? This paper can wait. There's something my instincts are pushing me to do. I save the work I've done so far onto my thumb drive, gather up my books, and sneak around as quietly as I can to catch up with Carlos. Good thing this side of the library is almost empty, otherwise people would think I'm trying to do something weird. Curiosity will certainly be the end of this cat, I swear. Carlos eventually stops in the middle of the row of bookshelves. I silently wrap around to the other side and try to catch a glimpse of what he's looking at between the gaps in the shelf. He's probably got an assignment he's working on like I am, but somehow this whole thing got me really excited. My heart's racing inside my chest. What if he's looking up something spicy? Whatever it is, I've got to know. Pointing with his finger, I can tell he's reading the titles of the books on the shelf at eye level. Eventually he picks one up and thumbs through it. Seemingly satisfied, he takes it with him. I try as best as I can to make out the name of the book he has from the other side, to no avail. When he leaves the aisle, I quickly wrap around and investigate the section he was just at. Fun with a pencil? I raise an eyebrow. This is a section for art. There's a gap where a book once was, with several extra copies next to it. Drawing on the right side of the brain. Damn. I didn't think he would be having such a hard time with art. He's going out of his way to get additional instruction like this. He must really be struggling. I turn around and continue to follow his trail around the library. I follow him all the way back to the hidden nook on the second floor. Looks like he's using this place as his secret getaway too. As soon as he sits down, he starts flipping through the pages in his copy of the drawing book. Within moments, he has his sketchbook open and is following along with one of the exercises. His eyebrows furrow, giving the impression he's 100% focused on what he's doing. Can't help but find him super fucking cute. God, he's making my heart melt with how dedicated he is. Still, I would like for him to trust me with his issues. As a friend, of course. It's only fair. I still owe him for the interview. I give my backpack a slight tug on my shoulders to psych myself up, then enter the nook. Oh wow, hey Carlos! Fancy running into you here. Smooth. He raises his head to look at the person intruding in his space. His expression immediately sours. Ben. That's my name. Don't wear it out. He shifts uncomfortably in his seat, blocking my view of his sketchbook. So this secret spot isn't so secret, huh? I appreciate the quiet here. Nobody comes to bother me while I try to work. Oof. Taking no prisoners today, huh? Could you have come up with a polite way to say you're bothering me? Yeah, I totally get it. I'm the same way. Just play dumb. Shouldn't be too hard for you, Ben. Mind if I sit here? I gotta do some work for a research paper in journalism class. Sure. Do not own the spot after all. Okay, time to smooth things over. I sit on the sofa next to him, taking some time to prepare all the books I need. Eventually I gather up the courage to say something. I see you're writing something. What are you working on? He takes a moment to reply. I'm working on our next drawing assignment. Already? Don't we have until Tuesday before it's due? You should not wait until the last moment to start working, Ben. Sure, but there's quite a leap between the very last day and the same day we got the assignment. He grunts back. I think I know what that means. I've been struggling with drawing myself, actually. He turns his attention back to me. I kind of picked drawing because I thought it'd be low-effort general education class, but the professor seems a lot more demanding than I expected. Maybe if I show my own troubles with the class, he'll be willing to open up about it. Yes, she told me that she does not like students who are there just to fill a requirement. She's been trying to motivate students to try their best at drawing instead of doing the bare minimum. I see. That would explain it, yeah. I can't say I was doing much more than the bare minimum myself. Guess I got off lucky, huh? Would you like me to help you with your art? Wow, how the tables have turned. I'd hardly call what I'm doing art, honestly. Surprisingly, he scoffs. If you put a piece of yourself in it, I think it is art. It is unique to yourself, and as such, nobody can do it the same way you do. I have to fight to keep my jaw from dropping. That is what I think, at least. That's really something coming from the guy who was only taking the class to fulfill an education requirement. General education requirement. I wonder what changed. I always thought you needed some degree of competency to be an artist, you know? I don't think anyone's ever going to want to buy a Bennett Rivers original or whatever. He chuckles before answering. It is true. We remember the masters, but I want to believe there is a medium between unknown and master. And here I was thinking he was going to fail the class. Well, if there's one thing you can say about Carlos, it's that he'll give it his all every time. Hey, why don't we exchange sketchbooks? I still have mine in my backpack from earlier. It could help seeing how the other is doing, don't you think? He takes a moment to think about it. He seems like showing his drawings to anyone is still a sensitive point. Okay. He hands me a sketchbook. Please, take a look. In return, I hand him mine. I flip through the pages and take in as much of his work as I can. The first thing that strikes me is the sheer number of drawings in there. He's been practicing a lot. It dwarfs mine. The second thing that strikes me is he's gotten really good. While I'd say I have the advantage initially, his practice has clearly paid off. His latest drawings are miles better than his first ones. And he's way better than I am currently. I recognize some of the people he's been drawing too. I swear, one of these gesture drawings is me. And that one is clearly Nate. It's still a bit crude, but I'm impressed nonetheless. I look over at him. He's still thumbing through my book. Can't quite tell what he's thinking. Now that I've seen the quality of his work, I'm feeling really self-conscious. I eventually reach the last few pages of his. Whoa. He's been getting A's and A pluses on the last few assignments. I feel my ears getting red hot. I feel so ashamed, thinking he was struggling with the work. How presumptuous of me. This is amazing, Carlos. He looks back up from my sketchbook. You've grown so much better in such a short time. I can't lie, I'm a little envious. Thank you. I do not want to get a bad grade in this class. He clearly took his initial failings as a challenge to get better. It really is astonishing how quickly that happened, though. You are not too bad yourself. I think you have more natural talent than I do. Though you need to practice more. If you have the right mindset, it can be fun. You know, I don't think he's just being a workaholic. I think he might actually be enjoying himself. Would you like to start working together from now on? We could help each other out and progress a lot quicker that way. This could be a way for us to bond. He hesitates for a bit before saying anything. I never liked group projects. I do not think I will be a good partner for this. I see. Well, how about this? Don't think of it as a group project. He looks at me intrigued. I cannot just change the way I think. Hear me out. You don't like cooperating, so why don't we compete? I'll be your art rival. Let's push each other to become the best we can be, okay? How does that sound? I think I can work with that. Aha! I had a feeling the tiger had a competitive streak. Seems obvious to me now that I think about it. Well, that's perfectly fine by me. I don't expect to win, but if it means I can spend more time with him, I'm totally down to get my ass kicked. Soon enough, the sky grows dark. We spent the entire evening talking about art and practicing. Out of all the things we do, I never expected drawing to be one of the things that brought us closer together. When we make it back to the dorm together, he wishes me good night and leaves with a smile on his face. I let out a deep yawn as I step out of the classroom. Don't forget your assignments for Monday. With a quick sign, I make sure Chris knows I heard him. Thinking about homework is the last thing I want to do right now. I have a bed with my name on it. Can't quite rush out just yet, though. I lean back against the wall beside the door, waiting for Carlos to make his exit. The others have already said their goodbyes and vacated the area, but when Carlos isn't in a rush, he's not really in a rush. I know there's nothing technically holding me back from just heading out myself. But somehow we both end up waiting for each other every time we share a class. It wasn't the result of a decision on our part or anything like that. And it's not like we were planning on going anywhere tonight. I guess Carlos and I are just creatures of habit. When a habit sets in, it roots itself deep. I'm not complaining, though. Sure, Carlos has his quirks, but I like hanging out with him. I hope he feels the same about me. Eventually the tiger makes his way out the door and into the hallway. He smiles when he sees me, releasing the good chemicals into my brain. Thank you for waiting for me. Don't mention it. We walk down the corridor into the main hall, then out onto the campus itself. The sun beats down over us, making me want to hide in the shade as soon as possible. We walk part of the way to the dorm in silence, and we do on occasions. It's not an uncomfortable silence, but rather an understanding quiet. The silence is broken by a sudden buzz in Carlos's pocket. Everything okay? He shakes his head, assuring me he's alright. After quickly scanning his phone, he looks over at me. It is a text from my aunt. She says she is ready for the interview. Oh, she is? That's cool. When does she want to do it? I'd given Carlos my schedule yesterday, so the question of when was up to her. Well, she is ready. I take an instant to work around what he just said. Ready, as in, I can tell he's a bit annoyed, but I'm not sure whether it's at me or at himself. Today. I freeze, the cogs in my brain working double time. Today? I didn't think she'd be down for it so quickly. The tiger pulls closer to me and angles his old smartphone so I can read the screen. I'm sorry, but this is what she sent me. He shows me the text he receives from his aunt. And just as he said, she wants to do the interview sometime this afternoon. Huh. I wish she'd given me more of a heads up. Is that alright with you? Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Truth is, I am the one who isn't ready for it. You've not prepared anything. Gah! The tiger stares at me, narrowing his eyes. Carlos has two modes, impressively dense or annoyingly perceptive. I swear. I've gotten everything I need back at the dorm. That isn't quite the whole truth, to be fair. I've got a few questions prepped, but the rest I'll have to come up with on the spot. Alright, I believe you. I know it is short notice, but my aunt is a busy woman. She's not have a lot of free time. He folds his arms as if trying to find the right words. You will do fine. Do not worry. Thanks. His words of encouragement resonate within me. The idea of interviewing her was perfectly fine, but now that's actually happening, that makes me pretty nervous. Especially since she's a relative of Carlos. I'd like to make a good impression after all. Do you have everything you need? Not quite. I need some things I left back at the dorm. Mainly my notebook. We have time to go get it. Lucky for us, we were already on our way to the dorms. She lives nearby then. The bus can take us close. Should not take more than 30 minutes to get there. I nod, swiping my card on the reader next to the door. Well, I'll be right back. You can wait for me at the bus stop. He raises an inquisitive eyebrow. Are you sure you can find the bus stop? I'm almost offended, but I know Carlos has seen me at my worst. I wonder what he remembers about that night. Yeah, it's the one by the football stadium, right? The tiger nods back. It is. I know the place then. See you there. Before I step inside, however, Carlos speaks up. Ben? I turn around to face the tiger. If you do not feel up to it, I can tell my aunt we will do it another day. There's a faint expression of concern on his face. No, really, I'm ready for this. I'd hate to cancel now. And besides, meeting your aunt? That's pretty special. He raises an eyebrow, processing what I said before cracking a smile. You two will get along, I'm sure. I smile back before running inside the building. It doesn't take me long to find all the materials I need for the interview. My notebook lying on my desk, still open to the page with whatever questions I managed to scribble down. I grab a couple of pens as well as a charger for my phone. Excuse me, I guess I'm tired. Recording the interview might be a good idea, but it'd suck if my phone died midway through. I take off as quickly as I came in. I jaunt down the stairs, and I'm back outside again. The bus stop is only a short jog away. Sure enough, I'm there in less than 5 minutes. To my surprise, there's no one but Carlos sitting on the bench. He gets up when he sees me approaching. Do you have everything? Pointing towards my backpack, I nod. Yep, got it all. Good. He sits back down, offering with a gesture of his hand the seat by his side. I'm not exactly winded from the run, but I'm not about to refuse the invitation either. Is this bus stop usually so empty? The others always seem so crowded. The tiger shrugs. The bus has already left. Oh. Whoops. Guess I took longer than I thought. When's the next one? In 10 minutes, I think. Cool. Shouldn't be too long a wait then. We could have made it if you hurried. I give Carlos a side eye and see him smirking. It was a joke. Aw. The deadpan delivery kind of scared me. But the perpetual grump cracking a joke now and then is pretty adorable. Yeah, I got it. Don't worry. I lean back on the bench as the silence settles in. Despite sitting out at the bus stop in the middle of campus, something in the air brings me a sense of inner calm. Whoops, my bad. The road in front of us has almost no traffic, leaving nature plenty of room to fill in. Leaves rustling in the breeze, birds chirping in the afternoon away. If I perk my ears up, I swear I can make out the distant waves crashing down on the shores on the other side of the campus. I close my eyes, focusing on every individual sound. My fur tingles as a gentle zephyr blows through. The chime of the wind, a quiet whisper. I'm vaguely aware of Carlos's calm breathing next to me, Imagine his chest rising and falling rhythmically. Even with my eyes shut, my mind's eye can still perceive the grand blue sky extending far off into the horizon, past the city and far into the far off cosmos. All I want to say here is, and all I want is to stay here and stretch the moment as long as I can. Waxing poetic was always more of an Eric thing, but in this moment, I think I understand why he loved it. I settle in a more comfortable position, leaning my head back against the bench, but jolt forward in surprise when I meet something warm and soft. Carlos jumps too, pulling his arm back on his lap. We stare at each other for a second. I'm sorry, My bad. Didn't expect your arm there. He turns his head away from me, face red in the sunlight. It is my fault. I should have asked. While the surprise made me jump, it certainly wasn't unwelcome, though I doubt he was expecting me to lean against it. My daydreaming habits can be quite the curse. Don't worry about it. I don't mind. He turns his head to look at me, repeating my words back at me. You don't mind? Somehow Carlos doesn't strike me as the type to be comfortable with other guys touching him. I try to dash out the awkward situation with a joke. Yeah, it's fine, really. Hell, it was certainly more comfortable than the bench. He seems puzzled by my reaction. I see. His lip quivers for a moment, as if he was going to say something else, but decides against it. The silence settles again between us, but this time it's almost suffocating in its tension. We sit and stew in it for a minute or two, which leaves me racking my brain trying to find a way to lighten the mood. Fortunately, the bus roars into view, giving me some more time to come up with an excuse to get the tiger talking again. We climb our way in, scouting out a place for both of us to sit after paying our fare. A quick glance reveals that, apart from us and another guy sitting at the front, there's no one else inside, giving us ample choice. I point at a set of 2 seats towards the back, and Carlos nods. We take our places inside the bus, Carlos having left the window side for me. I ponder for a moment whether I should leave it up to Carlos to break the silence, but knowing him, it could take a while. He's staring out the window opposite of us. So, your aunt, what kind of person is she? There's a brief instant where I'm not sure if he heard me or not. He swivels around like an automation. Wait, automaton. Weird. I'm sorry. I'm just like looking at the word because I don't think I've ever seen that word before. A blank look on his face. Did you say something? I was just wondering about your aunt. I don't think you've told me much about her apart from the fact that she's an alumna. And since I'm going so far as to interview her, I think the decent thing would be to have done some research before I show up. Carlos nods along, his eyes darting around the bus. My aunt is... She is a great woman. I admire her very much. Oh? What do you mean? It's always hard to tell what he thinks. There's a sense of nostalgia in his baritone voice. She is an amazing person who has worked very hard to achieve everything she has. Clearly that aspect made an impression on the tiger, judging by his entire outlook on life. I hope she's not exactly like him. One Carlos I can handle. I don't know about two. Do you see her often? He closes his eyes, a wistful smile on his lips. Not as often as I want to. It has been a while since the last time I saw her. Behind his facade of stoicism, I can tell there's a spark of excitement at the prospect of seeing his aunt again. Or aunt. The way you're talking about it, sounds like you two have spent a lot of time together. The smile fades as he furrows his brow in recollection. He gives a furtive look at me, almost as if judging me. Whatever it is he seems to be looking for, he continues. When I had to leave my home, my aunt helped me and offered a place to stay. It happened very quickly. I appreciate her help a lot. Oh, was that when you left to come to USO? He shakes his head. No, it was during my senior year of high school. She took care of me during that time. He looks up for a moment, and I can tell he's deciding whether or not to add more details. Yeah, okay. I understand now. You two must be close. Carlos nods, appreciative of my lack of prying. I think I can relate myself. My older sister, Jess, I look up to her a lot. She took care of me like your aunt did. He cranes his neck to face me, surprised. I did not know you had siblings. Yeah. My voice cracks, betraying my emotions. Sheesh. This never gets easier, does it? I don't think I can do it right now. Dealing with the apologies and the I didn't know. I've heard enough of them. Just Jess. She's older than me by like a good 10 years. I don't like to think about how the gap between our ages is closing. What about your parents? My mom kind of took off when I was a kid. Dad was always working. Didn't have time to be a single father. So, Jess stepped up to the plate. She was the one who brought me to school, attended my graduation, and all that. Dad tried to get involved, but rarely had the time. Carlos' expression drops, and he seems genuinely hurt by my story. I'm sorry, Ben. I did not know this. Guess it can't be helped. No, it's fine. There's nothing to be sorry about. This isn't about how sad my life was or anything like that. I just think I can relate to what it means to be raised by someone other than who people expect. His smile reassures me that my attempt at relating to him was a success. It is good to know that I'm not alone in that situation. Your sister sounds like a great woman, too. I nod in agreement. Jess was the best. My aunt is why I know how to speak English well. She helped me more than most teachers have. I noticed something odd about his story. You learned to speak English in high school? No, I already knew English before. He stammered in protest at my insinuation. I wasn't very good at it before, that is all. Oh, did you live outside the US then? Carlos blinks, confused. No, I've always lived in California. Oh, Sorry. I thought that because you said your aunt taught you how to speak English better, you meant... Carlos bristles up, staring at me while I try to worm my way out of the accidentally offensive line of questions I went down. Think before you speak, Ben. She was a strict teacher. That is what I meant. Oh, okay. Gotcha. There's another pause for a couple of minutes before Carlos speaks up again. The flow of our conversation drifts from one topic to another on the rest of the way to his aunt's place. It's not too long before the bus drops us off in a part of town I've never been to before. A quick look around is all it takes for me to realize we're in a suburb, however. The houses stretches alongside the road are all very different from each other, in both size and style. The only common point they all seem to share is their expansive sizes and how expensive they look. Your aunt lives around here? Carlos nods, pointing a finger at a street further along the way. Yes, it is down that street. Huh. Cool. This is certainly not what I expected. I'm not sure what I expected, to be honest. Knowing how Carlos is, I guess something more frugal? Then again, the whole reason I'm here is because she's an alumna from USL. From what I read in the brochures, a majority of students graduating from USL end up in pretty good careers. He leads me across the street as I crane my neck, trying to figure out which of these mansions belongs to his aunt, sorry. Blech. So I take it your aunt's pretty wealthy? Carlos crosses his arms. Is that an issue? Dejected at the uncharitable interpretation, I sigh. Why do you always do that, Carlos? Of course not, dude. My dad and I, we're definitely on the wealthier side of the scale, too. I look ahead, preparing for the turn we're about to take. Although, he'd probably tell you that it's his money, not mine. Tiger raises an eyebrow at the remark. Just how he is, I guess. Anyway, just saying I don't have issues with it. I don't have any issues with it. It was just only an observation. I think it makes USL look like a pretty good choice in retrospect. Carlos nods in agreement. My aunt worked hard for everything she has. She is someone I aspire to be like. There's a wistful tone in his voice. Let's try and make the most of this interview then. Mm-hmm. We walk for another minute, turning at the next intersection. Across the pavement ahead of us on a small patch of grass, there's a kid playing around it on a skateboard. He pushes the board along with his right foot, focused on his movement. There's a brief moment where he seems to guess his next move. And with a clumsy kick to the back of the board, he sends himself flying across the grass. He recovers midair from his bail, landing on his feet. That could have went way worse. Orlando? Or is it Orlando? Alright. Carlos hails the young teen, much to my surprise. He turns around, startled by the deep voice calling his name. In the space of a second, his confused expression turns into a beaming smile. Carlos! The kid rushes to Carlos's side, who took the opportunity to join the kid on the grass. Is that another brother of his? Carlos bear hugs the little tiger and lifts him before spinning him around, feet dangling in the wind. I can tell by Orlando's excited chuckles he's loving this. I'm gonna say Orlando. I'm sorry. Anyways. And he's not the only one, judging by Carlos's toothy grin. I've never seen him smile like that before. As the helicopter winds down, Carlo plants Orlando back on his feet in front of him. Have I not told you to wear a helmet? The kid pouts. I had it on before you got here, I swear. He points at the black helmet on the ground a few feet behind him. It just gets too hot inside that thing. Carlos folds his arms, faking discontent. It does no good for anyone like that. The grass does not need the protection, you know. I will not tell your mama, of course, but you have to be careful. He concludes with a wink, which gets a chuckle out of the boy. Carlos turns to me, a hand on the back of Orlando. This is Orlando, my cousin. Oh, that makes more sense, yeah. Instinctively, I hold my hand out. Is shaking a kid's hand weird? It probably is. I don't know how you're supposed to greet a kid. Undeterred, the young Orlando returns my handshake. There's a glint of pride in his eyes. Orlando, this is Ben. He is the one that will interview your mother today. Orlando grins at me. Mom told me Carlos is bringing a friend. I want to go to USL like you two. One day you will, I'm sure. There's a my tongue is twisted. I know the word. My tongue's too twisted. There's camaraderie. Yeah, is that right? I don't know. My tongue's too twisted. I'm sorry. Between the two cousins, I'd qualify as almost brotherly. I don't really have any cousins I know of, so I can't say if that's just how cousins act together. But if so, I'm envious. How is your skateboarding going anyway? I'm trying to do some tricks I saw on the internet and all, but I can't keep steady. Stupid board's slippery as heck. Let me see. Orlando hands the skateboard over to Carlos, who examines it. There's a noticeable gap in the way they speak English. Strangely, despite their age difference, it's not in favor of Carlos. Orlando's speech is a lot less stilted. I wonder why. Oh, that probably explains why, like, instead of, like, using, like, shorthand or, like, shortened versions of words. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Because I don't think it was, to my knowledge anyways, I don't think it was really hinted at too much that Carlos has a very stilted, like, way of speaking. Like, I just thought that he was just quiet and that was it. But that actually makes a little bit more sense. So if like English is his second language and he's not like even though he's clearly fairly fluent in it, it's pretty clear that he's still kind of like stilted. He doesn't really use a lot of shorthand and he uses a lot of shortened terms. Like I notice, the more I know now that this is like revealed, I kind of understand why, like, instead of saying I'm or don't or like wanna or anything like that, it's very like I am, it is, you are, like it's he's not doing like he's not doing any of the conjunction. I think that's the word, right? Conjunction. I don't know. It's been years since I've taken English class. Okay. But yeah, no, and like I noticed like he doesn't really do like the I wanna, like it's always like want to, stuff like that. Like it's, and also I kind of noticed that a little bit where like the other characters like are kind of used to like the shorthands, the conjunctions, and the combo words and stuff like that. Carlos is kind of like saying everything like one word at a time, so that makes a lot more sense. I just thought that he was like quiet, but like, well, I mean, I'm sure like he is clearly quiet and keeps to himself, but the fact that he also, you know, I didn't realize how stilted his speech was. So okay, Carlos shakes his head. The board is fine. You are too stiff. See, like that, for example, like instead of saying you're too stiff, he's like, you are too stiff, which a lot of people, I mean, some people will say like you are, but like it's not a common thing. Like, it's just like you'll say you're too stiff, Yeah, so now things are, or like, the board is stiff instead of like the board's stiff, Stuff like that. He uses like one word at a time type of thing. So that's actually kind of interesting to know. As if to show Orlando how it's done, Carlos hops on a skateboard on the ground and stands on it. He remains perfectly still on the board, much to my surprise. You should make sure to bend your knees. With perfect balance, he lowers his stance. It is like jumping. When you kick, but when you kick the back of the board, you let your front foot glide up. He demonstrates the gesture with his hands, his left hand ramping his right fist. Let me show you. I stand there, mouth agape, as Carlos puts into practice the advice he offered. A swift kick to the back of the board, and he's in the air. The skateboard's spinning underneath him. There's no hesitation or second guessing to his footwork. His flawless landing is met with the standing ovation of his younger cousin. What the hell? Carlos is the last person I expected to be able to skate. Smiling at Orlando, the tiger offers further explanation on nailing the trick he just pulled. Most of it is jargon I've never heard before, but the boy is just lapping it all up. Clearly, he holds Carlos in high esteem. A minute or two later, Carlos heads back towards me, leaving his cousin to practice. Let us go inside. I didn't know you could skate. Despite the angel on my shoulder telling me not to pry too much, my entire being vibrates at the desire to know more. Carlos was expecting that and more, and he replies in a manner as matter-of-fact as possible. My brother and I used to skateboard when we were younger. There is a certain bashfulness to his tone of voice. I want to know more, but I can tell by the look on his face this is something he'd rather keep private. He's cute when he's shy. With the distractions out of the way and the house in front of me, it finally dawns on me how massive it is. Just how massive it is. It's by no means the biggest house ever, even on this street alone. But it's definitely bigger than most houses I've been to, save for a few of my dad's rich friends. The gargantuan residence sits somewhere between a big family house and a small mansion. Built atop white pavement, the earthened brown stucco walls form an irregular and asymmetric structure, almost as if square blocks were assembled together in a haphazard fashion, all crowned with a similarly flat roof. The main entrance, slightly off to the side, is built into the largest block with two wings on each of its sides. Each wing is seemingly composed of two giant slabs stepped in such fashion as to allow the second floor to enjoy the luxury of a balcony. Freshly mowed grass and large palm trees surround the house, their mixed greens providing a vivid contrast to the brown walls they share the space with. Wait for me. I will go get her. At a loss of words, I nod. Carlos steps inside the open front door while I wait on the porch right outside. Having always been more used to the confines of the high-end apartments my dad loves, a modern mansion like this was definitely the last thing I expected from his aunt, especially with a nephew as frugal as Carlos. Would he splurge like this too if he had the money? It doesn't take long for Carlos to poke his head out again, inviting me to come in with a wave of his hand. Here we go. My first step is greeted by a wave of cool, fresh air. There's no doubt the house is fully equipped with the best AC money you can buy, and you can feel it. Had the outside been intended to leave me speechless, what awaited inside was enough to take my breath away. Sharing the same earthened motifs as an outside, married to contrasting whites and blacks, the union of modern and natural was an inspired choice. I'm barely afforded a moment to take it all in as a figure steps out of an adjacent door. Oh, hello. You must be Bennett, am I right? The gentle and caring voice is followed by a feminine silhouette. Carlos takes the initiative before I'm able to reply. Yes, Carmen. He turns to face me, offering a repeat of the introduction he gave me and his cousin. Ben, this is my Aunt Carmen. With her shoulder-length crimson hair contrasting her smart black-striped suit, Carmen cuts an imposing figure. And this is my friend Ben. Carlos's mind seems to drift for a moment before continuing. I do not remember if I told you his name was Bennett, but he prefers Ben. At least he saved me the trouble of saying it. Oh, I'm sorry. I like to be prepared, but I guess there's some things you can only know once you meet the person. Prepared? Gah, she really is like Carlos, isn't she? Setting aside the momentary dread, I speak up. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Thank you for agreeing to the interview. It helps more than you know. No need to thank me. I'm only doing what every alumni worth their salt should do. Please make yourself at home. I'm not sure what I was expecting from Carmen coming here, but she seems like a very nice person at first glance. She strikes me as the focused, worked her way up type. Very much like Carlos, but more approachable, I suppose. Would you like some tea? I brewed some tea earlier today. Oh, I'm not thirsty. I appreciate it, though. And just like her son, her English is basically perfect. She turns her head to face her nephew. I'm good, thank you. There is a noticeable change in her attitude. She rests her hands on her waist, pursing her lips. Carlos, have you been keeping up with your English practice? The sudden shift to her attitude leaves me feeling like I'm the one being scolded. Carlos looks away, his face red. No. Carmen sighs. You're a bright student, but you shouldn't neglect your English skills. What have I told you about contracting verbs? Contract. There we go. There we go. Contracting verbs. Alright, sorry. I thought it was conjuncting. But no, it's contracting. There we go. I know it sounds fine to you, but it makes you sound stiff to everyone else. The sternness in her voice gives way to concern, almost motherly in its tenderness. I know. Sorry, I will try. He winces at the realization. I'll try. Carmen smiles. I know you'll be fine. You just have a tendency to overthink things, you know? It's rare to see Carlos being the one on the other side of a scolding, even as late as this one is. Definitely something I'll need to keep my mouth shut about. I'm not sure why he struggles with his English so much when both Carmen and Orlando speak it fluently. We follow Carmen into what appears to be the dining room. She pulls out a couple of chairs for Carlos, and I sit down where she takes a seat in front of us on the other side of the table. Say, Ben, would you like to stay for dinner as well? Our maid Francesca is almost done, and we'd be happy to have you. I'm taken aback by the sudden offer. What's the polite thing to do here? She offering because it's a nice thing to do? What if she doesn't expect me to accept? I wouldn't want to be a bother, really. She waves her hand in front of her. You're not a bother. Any friend of Carlos is a friend of ours. I try to stammer out a response as a light tap on my foot draws my attention to Carlos. His understanding smile reassures me it's fine to accept the offer. Well, if it's really fine, I'd love to. Carmen's face lights up at my words. Fantastic. Francesca always make more than we can eat, so we'll take any help we can. A chuckle from Carlos and her both leads me to believe that it's an inside joke the two of them share. Well, on to business now. I understand you had an interview. You had to interview me for a class of yours. Cutting to the chase, huh? I take out my notebook and pens, flipping through it as I speak. I'm not sure how much Carlos told you. I'm a journalism student. We were given different topics to cover for the school's paper, and mine was to ask an alumni of USL how attending the university has helped them achieve their dreams. The whole topic feels pretty conceited when spoken out loud like that. Carmen remains unfazed, however, nodding along as I explain my work. I figured as much. Carlos was slim on the details. I can see him shrug in the corner of my eyes. But then again, who am I to decline? Yeah. I cock my head, inviting her to continue. I was a journalism student at USL, just like you. The look of surprise on my face must be a sight to behold, judging by her grin. Can I expect a mansion of this size in my future if I go through with my journalism degree? Just like you, I've had to conduct my fair share of interviews for the school's paper. In a way, this feels like passing on the torch to the next generation. Of course, I can't say no to a favor for my beloved nephew. Carlos turns his head, his ears folded. You don't have to say it like that. The complaint comes out as a quiet grumble, betraying his embarrassment. I see he's already taken his aunt's advice to heart. Well, in any case, let's get this interview started. Ask away. The moment of truth. I fumble through my notebook, setting my phone down to record. Do you mind if I record this? Whatever's most helpful to you. Thanks. Once I'm sure I have everything ready, I begin. So, what made you decide to attend USL? Carmen leans back in her chair with a thoughtful expression on her face. Are you familiar with Guada... I'm sorry. I'm just gonna... It's kind of like the German, it's kind of like with the German earlier with the hall that should not be named. Is it Guadalajara? Is that it? I hope it is. I shake my head, but then remember it would probably be better to get everything recorded. No, I can't say I am. It's a city in Mexico. The capitalist state of Jalisco? I'm just gonna kind of guess my way through the pronunciations. I apologize. It's also where I was born and lived for most of my childhood with the rest of my family. While my family wasn't particularly well off, we did better than some others. Nothing of note happened until my high school years. It was then I became interested in the border struggle between the United States and Mexico. An interest spurred on by... I catch your glance at Carlos, whose expression remains as stoic as ever, if graver somehow. All the horrible stories we heard on television every day. As a top student of my school, and thanks to my hard-working parents, I was able to secure an admission to the USL as a foreign student. I jot down as much as I can in my notebook, making sure to cram as much info as possible. Better make sure to have a backup plan if my recording fails me. Was that why you came to California? Indeed. Motivated by the countless stories from the border, I chose to study journalism in the hopes that I might one day shine a light on the events happening there for all to see. After securing my degree, I was offered a job at World News Corp. The rest, as they say, is history. I raise an eyebrow at the mention of World News Corp. That's where my dad works too. The positions in the company must be wildly different, judging by the difference in wealth. That or my dad is bad with his money. Would you say that earning your degree at USL is what gave you the chance to work at WNC? Carmen takes a second to reflect. There's no telling for sure, but I would like to think so, yes. I met a number of incredible people during my days as a student there. Many of them I still count as dear friends today. Every last one of them capitalized on what the university offered them and now work good positions in the fields of their choosing. You could say the University of Santa Lucia opened the door for me, but it was still up to me to make sure I walked through it. Time slowly ticks away as I go down the list of questions I've prepared. After about an hour and a half of constant back and forth, we finally reach the last one. Do you have any advice to offer students currently studying at USL? Carmen closes her eyes, seemingly deep in thought. There's as many truths as there are people in the world. Always strive to widen your lens, to broaden your horizons. Only then you can handle the single objective truth. Carlos and I turn to each other, a quizzical expression on our faces. Not exactly the advice I was expecting. Just something I thought sounded appropriate. I finished my final notes before closing my notebook and stopping the recording. Thank you very much for your time. This was way more than I anticipated. I think I've got everything I need to write a great article. Oh, I should be the one thanking you, really. There's nothing quite like taking a trip down memory lane. I would love to have a copy when the article is published. As if waiting for the right moment, a friendly-faced woman enters the room. Dinner is ready. Carmen claps her hands together in delight. Excellent. Carlos, would you be a dear and tell Orlando? Exchanging a stoic nod, Carlos gets up from the table and exits the room. The rest of us help set up the table. Can't say this is what I imagined dinner would be like when I woke up this morning. But this isn't unpleasant at all. The four of us sit at the table, exchanging pleasantries over what I now know to be a traditional bowl of... is it Pozole or Pozole? Well, I feel like... Okay, so... Hey, if anyone knows any Spanish, feel free to correct me. Because, hey, at the end of the day, I mean, if I can pronounce things better, it'll be a lot less cringy. Carmen has began her own interview, this time asking Carlos and I about USL and our respective fields of study. I notice a slight delay every time Carlos speaks up, as if he's making sure everything he's about to say is phrased well. It's odd hearing him use contractions. He sounds a lot less stilted. Orlando finishes first, and after asking for permission to leave the table, he heads upstairs to where I can only assume his room is. The mood shifts as Carmen furrows her eyebrows. Carlos? I've received interesting news from your family back in Stockton. Your mother sent me a message before we sat down for dinner. Carlos bristles as he prepares himself for what his aunt has to say. It's about your brother. Andres. He's in the hospital, and he'd like to see you. Her words hang heavy in the room. Carlos's spoon gently clangs against the almost empty bowl in front of him. There's 1,000 burning questions searing through my mind. Only one seems really appropriate to ask in this circumstance, if only to relieve Carlos of the burden to ask it himself. And if it's not too much to ask, what happened? Carmen shakes her head and sighs, dejected. Overdose. There's a loud bang as Carlos slams his fist into the table, spilling droplets of soup from his bowl. I told him he was heading for trouble. Why does he never listen? Stupid pig-headed. Carlos's frustration boils over, leaving him cursing in Spanish. Carmen folds her arms. Carlos, I know you're frustrated, but you shouldn't take it out on us. Or my furniture. Carlos looks up, his ears flat against his head. I'm sorry. He pulls his chair out and gets up. I need to go to the bathroom. Carmen stares at her nephew as he stomps off. This family... She turns to face me, the only other person remaining at the table. I'm sorry you had to hear that. It didn't seem appropriate to hide it from Carlos. And this isn't the kind of news I want to deliver with a phone call. I shake my head. I understand. She relaxes her posture, leaning back in her chair. Since it's just the two of us, would you mind telling me a bit about yourself? Off the record, of course. There's a wry smile on her lips. I'm taken aback by the sudden change in topic. But talking about his family behind his back would most certainly piss Carlos off. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure what to say about myself. There's nothing special about me. Nonsense. How about where you come from? I understand you're not from Santa Lucia? I'm actually from Colorado. Lived there my whole life until my dad got a promotion at his job. Then we moved to Chicago. Apart from that, I guess I'm half Native American. Oh, that's really interesting. On which parents' side? My mother, actually. Not that I know much else about her. I see. Alright. How did you and Carlos meet? She leans in towards me, lowering the volume of her voice. If I can let you in a little secret, you're the first friend Carlos has trusted enough to bring here. While it was obvious to me that Carlos wasn't the kind to just let anyone into his life, having that suspicion be confirmed leaves my heart beating faster. We're just classmates. We're in the same mentorship program. Carmen nods her head in understanding, a glint of something behind her eyes. Carlos comes back in the room, not a moment later. I'm sorry about the table again, Aunt Carmen. She shakes her head, as if to say it's fine. Carlos turns to face me. It's time to go, Ben. Oh, okay. I can't deny there's a tinge of disappointment at leaving so early. I don't want to make him any angrier, though. Carlos and I make our way to the main entrance once more, Carmen in tow. She doesn't seem surprised at Carlos's reaction. Will you go see Andres? Is it Andreas or Andres? I'm going to say Andreas. Or maybe it's just Andre with the S silent. Who knows? Again, if anyone knows Spanish, I don't know a lick of Spanish, so... Or, so I'm just like... I'm bad at pronunciations. It's kind of like with German. I can't do German. I can kind of... Like, at most, I can kind of understand French. I've definitely lost my French skills over the years. Nowadays, I can, kind of read French. And that's basically it. Anyways, continuing. There's a slight pause before Carlos replies. No. Thank you for tonight. See you soon. Thank you for the interview. And for dinner. Carmen waves us off as we head out into the quickly approaching night. The bus rumbles and stirs as it cuts a swathe through the dark streets. Carlos hasn't said anything since we left his aunt's place, instead preferring to stare out the window. There's a pang of guilt inside my chest. I feel like I should say something. Anything. He's not alone in this. Are you and Andres close? The words tumble out of my mouth, a gamble I hope isn't misplaced. Carlos tears his lingering gaze from the window, his eyes square on me. No. The gears in his head start to turn, and he decides to elaborate. We were when we were younger. I don't know him anymore. Alright, so far so good. Do you want to see him? He lets the question mature in his head before replying. What is there to say? We would just fight again like we always do. I think you should go see him. His ears perk up. Told you about my sister Jess, right? I remember, yes. But she doesn't sound anything like Andreas. Jess died in a car accident a few years back. He seems genuinely surprised at the reveal. I'm sorry, Ben. That's why I hate bringing this up. Sounds like I'm making things all about myself. It's okay. You didn't know. Don't worry. Taking a deep breath, steeling myself. I'd give anything to see her again. Anything. There's so much I want to tell her, and so much I never got to. I'll never be able to. And I don't want that happening to you, too. Family is important, and we take them for granted until they're gone for good. He doesn't say anything apart from the occasional grunt. Andreas is still alive, and he wants to see you. I don't know what happened between you two, but there's still a chance. Maybe he'll change, maybe he won't. But you'll always regret not taking that chance. Don't leave things unsaid. Don't leave things left unsaid. As expected, Carlos remained silent after listening to me, instead turning back to the window once more. I don't know if I got through to him or not. If I did, though, what he does next is his choice. I just hope he'll make one he can live with. And I'm going to leave it off here. That was heavy. I'm sorry. I'm just like, wow, this whole episode was pretty heavy. Like, I obviously knew this was going to happen because I did walk through, like, his door in one of Ben's dreams. So, like, I already knew this was going to be a topic that was going to be brought up. But no, that conversation kind of cut deep a little bit. And I'm just like, wow. Whew. That was heavy. Anyways, guys, next time we'll continue Carlos's route. And we'll go from there. So, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.